What's going on, guys? It's Pilot Flame back here, and apologies about wanting to do the healer video. I said I was going to do it, but they took down the paste bin, so I couldn't actually read it all or take down the notes. So we're just going to go through the job actions. I remember some of the details for it, but we're going to take a look at the job action trailer today. I got my notebook here with me and wrote down all the different nuances and little tidbits that I managed to pick up in the trailer. So we're going to go through the jobs one by one as they appear in the trailer, which was absolutely fantastic. I think Square did a really good job presenting it, especially in comparison to the previous expansions one. So we're going to take a look at this here. Got the Dank Knight. That's just LB3. One of the cooler looking ones. So start off with Gunbreaker. This is hopefully the job that I'm going to be playing. So right there, we notice its gauge. It has two ammo slots or cartridge slots, I believe is the term that they used. And you can basically use these cartridges in certain weapon actions to basically increase the amount of damage that you do. This little glowy thing wasn't there before. It's basically just the tank stance from what we understand. So let's continue on. I'm going to be pausing the video a lot, so we can basically kind of stop and go back and see all the different little bits and pieces that you see just like I do. So he's got the range bull, which is basically like his shield lob. His gap closer, we know that has 2 charges. That's number 1. Number 2. Now we'll just kind of take it back here just a little bit, just so we can see that one again. So right after this ability here, we see that he gets a heal or shield of some kind on himself. That is a buff, I believe it's called Brutal Shell. I believe it gives him some form of heal or shield. I don't know the exact details. I believe there was a lot more in the live letter where Yoshi P was actually playing the job, but I don't think he ever hovered over Brutal Shell and exactly what it does. But from what we know, it's some type of shield or heal. Now, this next ability here, that we know is an ability called Aurora, which is basically a 18-second regen, I believe it was. It's quite a strong regen, especially for a tank to have. So it's quite interesting that they'll have this type of power among all of the tanks. So it'd be interesting to kind of differentiate between what the different tanks have in terms of utility for their like off-tank style of play. So we'll just run it back just a little bit here. So we got, that's the shield. He gives the heal off to the person, and then he does the combo finisher, which you can see gives him another cartridge. Now that looks to me like some type of intervention type shield. Basically, it could be a buff, could be a shield. It's probably something closer to intervention, probably something around 6-7 seconds, somewhere around there. Pretty similar to intervention, that probably does damage reduction. Or it could be a haste, it could be a buff of some kind, but based on the animation, it looks kind of like a shield. So that consumed one of the ammo charges. That just looked like some type of AoE ability of some kind. I'm not sure if that's off the GCD or on the GCD, but that first ability that he did do a weapon skill that consumed the cartridge, as we only have 1 out of the 2 remaining. From what I saw in the live letter and the display of the job being played, it looks like that there's an ability that's used with a cartridge, then there's some off GCD, then an ability with a cartridge, then some off GCD, then a final ability that's like a finisher combo, and then a final off GCD or something of that nature. That's what I gathered from it. So those will be displayed right here. So you just used another one, and that's some type of off GCD again, and then that's the finisher combo, and that's the final off GCD by the looks of it, which looks to be like some type of line AoE nuke there. So overall, very impressed with Gunbreaker. Very looking forward to it. It looks like it does a lot of damage, and its utility looks to be quite strong, and looks fairly straightforward to play. Now, next up, Bard. Played Bard myself in Deltascape. So we got the two different meters, which is what we noticed right away. That's Wind Bite and Caustic Bite. One thing to actually notice was that was just straight shot just used, and before we had a timer which told us the duration of straight shot. Now there is no timer, there's just this other gauge down here which we will find out about in a second. So maybe they're relying on the player to look at their buff bar for straight shot, or maybe straight shot is something completely different. Or they're using the straight shot animation and renaming it to heavy shot. I don't know. That's something we don't know as of yet. So we'll just take that back a little bit. So in the beginning, plays some type of buff, then does Mage's Ballad. I believe that buff is actually the either Troubadour or Minet. One of those two. Not very good with the Bard animations. So there's just your two dots there. That's definitely straight shot. Switches to Army's Paeon. Then does some type of blue buff, whatever that was a second ago. Then he does another buff. And it seems that this, if you just watch down on the Army's Paeon bar here. So that getting that stack. So basically, I guess Bloodletter procs. You'll also see the Pitch Perfect stacks give 5 each. They give 5 each, and then you'll also see when he switches to Minuet that the Army's Paeon, or the Minuet Imperial Arrow gives 10 as well, because he gains 15 after using Imperial Arrow, so 5, and then the Imperial gives 10. This just basically looks like Venomous Bite but AoE, so it saves you from having to dot and calculate how many mobs you have in a pack. You can just use this now and then just go crazy with Rain of Death if it still exists, and your I want to call it Wide Volley, but a Quick Knock. So, and he switches to Wanderers. See, we get another stack, and then it moves up to 10. And then he just got 2 stacks and used Amp Arrow, which gave him, because one stack was from the Imperial Arrow, 1 stack was from randomly generating a stack. So if he gets a randomly generated stack, it's 5, and then the Imperial Arrow gave him 10. So basically, if you gain a stack via Imperial Arrow, because it seems to function in that way, you get 10 gauge over 5. And he uses Pitch Perfect, and then uses the Ion Laser Beam Railgun type ability, which looks cool as hell. That seems to be the gauge spender. Whether that's the only gauge spender, we don't know, but it looks like it used 25, so whether there's some bigger ability that also uses 50, or if it's just that ability, or there's other abilities earlier on in the kit where they've changed to where they have to use that gauge, who knows. We'll be able to find that out on the 29th, hopefully, when people release all the information who went to the Media Tour events. Now moving on to the next job here, we have Dragoon, poster child of Heaven's Ward. Not to be this time, so he uses Blood of the Dragon. That jump animation is super quick, and you can see how quick it is because he has the, I'm gonna see if I can pause it here on that. Let's take a look here. Let's see if I can get it right. He blinked off the screen too fast, but you see the streaks behind him. But it looks like the dive ready mechanic still functions the same. Basically, every time you use a jump or a spine shatter dive, you get dive ready, and then can use the Mirage dive to gain an eye. And oh, we got to take that back because that's definitely a new skill there. Back a little further. So he dives in, he does the Doom Spike, and he does the thrust, and then he does the third part AoE. So presumably some type of 3-part AoE. Also, if you notice, the second and third parts of the AoE combo increase your Blood of the Dragon as well, which is quite nice for phase transitions if you have to use it. So then he does disembowel, chaos thrust, wheeling thrust, fang and claw, or other way around. Now this ability is definitely a new ability. It's either a part 6 of a combo or an off GCD. The reason being I have to say it's part 6 of a combo is because he then proceeds with the second and third part of the full thrust combo. So either it replaces it, or it just becomes this one long combo of like 8 abilities that you hit in a row. I'm not sure. Or maybe it's just an off GCD and they're doing it to slow down the animation. My guess is that it could be some type of chain of GCDs that you have to do. And it could be where your Vorpal thrust combos are slightly different in the first ability that you use, which would make sense in terms of what they're showing, but it could also just be an off GCD that they just happen to play very slowly. So I believe he does a jump here again, and you can see up front it's super quick. Also to note, from the previous jump he was able to jump, it returns him to his position like normal. You also notice that after 2 Mirage Dives, we are in Life of the Dragon, which before was 3 and previously before that was 4. Another thing to note, we'll just take it back a few seconds here. When he enters Life of the Dragon, 30 seconds immediately. So no more having to do an extra GCD in order to get that 30 seconds of Life of the Dragon. You just can go straight into it. So Gear Skill goes normal, and then he does Nidhogg's Dive, which is awesome. We'll just play that sequence back. So it's Gear Skill, he just does a loose jump, and then Nidhogg's Dive, which is super cool. So yeah, so basically it seems like they cleaned up a lot of Dragoon's gameplay in terms of that. We didn't see Spine Shatter Dive, which was something that also gave Dive Ready into Mirage Dive. So we'll have to kind of see that one if it still exists, because that'll make your opener super fast for Trick Attack with this. Now we're looking at Black Mage. So immediate reaction. We'll talk about this skill in a second. 2 polyglots, and it looks like that they can stack. We'll just rewind this back a little bit. We'll let him do his Nidhogg Dive again. So Black Mage, so he starts off in Umbral Ice 2, no Umbral Hearts, uses Ley Lines, and then uses Enochian, and then uses that one little ability where he spun around, which gave him an extra Umbral Ice stack as well as an Umbral Heart. I can't remember what the ability was called, but it is a on the GCD instant cast. So this can be used obviously if you're just kind of running around and you get yourself basically ready for when the boss comes back down. And he uses Ley Lines, uses Flare, which consumes the heart, then uses Flare. Now that is Freeze. So we'll just take that back. So he has 3 stacks. So Freeze puts you at max Umbral Ice and 1 heart. So we can see some rotations, AoE rotations, if Freeze is still AoE, to whereas you can do, you know, a few flares, then freeze, then back to flares, and then use other skills later on. Basically ramping up your damage even more. Or if you know that you need to, if you're going back into, it's basically a quick way to get back into ice. With that, probably only going to be used in AoE scenarios, but we'll have to see on that. So there's the freeze, there's the fire 3, there's triple cast, flare to 0 mana, potion, flare, then uses Blizzard 3, which is free, by the way. Blizzard 3, all the Blizzard skills, I believe Thunder 3 also is either 400 mana or free as well, from the tooltips, from what we saw. So he then uses Blizzard 4, Thunder 3, Fire 3. So that's a fire 4. And then just consumed all of his Umbral Heart stack. So this ability here is called Despair. It basically uses your max mana. It's basically single target flare, from what we know. And then uses the first Polyglot for foul. And then the second one for foul 2, basically. It's a single target foul. We've seen the tooltips and they basically read the exact same, so we're not sure if you can basically use a GCD, use foul 2, or I think it's called Xenoglossy is the correct name for it. And that was shown in the tooltip. So let's say you use fire 4 off GCD Xenoglossy, fire 4 off GCD Xenoglossy. I'm not sure if you can do that, or you have to use them back to back in that way. But based on the tooltip, you should be able to do both. They're just, I guess, showing off the various different skills. And that is an instant cast, and it has a recast timer of around all the same abilities as well. So Astro, right off the bat, completely different gauge that we're working with here. So things to note on the gauge is, 1, there is obviously the picture of the card that you draw. So this Astro here draws the arrow. Underneath is the text for the next card, so you know what you're going to draw next. So we'll just let it play. So she then uses that and it goes to an icon, which we'll discuss in a second. Then draws the bowl, which we saw was the next text. So the bowl was the confirmed next card. And then the last card was in the text was the spear. So we'll just bring it back just a little bit here. So if you notice, after the first card is drawn and then used, the icon went up here as a moon crescent. For this one, you see how there's the sun, and the last one, you actually see it looks like an earth or a globe or ice ball. I don't know what you want to call it. I guess I call it the earth. So now you have all three basic requirements filled up. You can still take the arrow and turn it into the Lord of Crowns, which is then used not as a damage ability, it's used as a buff because it does not hit the dummy. So it's probably some type of damage buff. Now this ability, these are the symbols of the 12, and it looks like some type of clock. So either it increases the potency of all these cards, it increases the duration, it adds additional buffs. I don't know. All I know is that it basically consumed all of those buffs being stored. But it could also be that all of those buffs are consumed and the Astro gains them as well. That is something that could also be seen there. My guess is that it's probably some type of enhanced time dilation for those specific cards. So then the Astro uses basically the Malefic and Combust. And then we go into, I call this universe mode, I guess. Basically this is I believe it's the low 80 ability, where they have the ability to use both sects at the same time. They can use nocturnal and diurnal shields and regens at the same time. So right there, the ninja gets a aspected benefit. That buffs all the party members, so that is more likely to be some type of increase in time that the cards are able to be used on these 3 players that the Astro has placed on them, which is what seems to be more likely, or it gives added benefits to all those players with cards. That is the aspected Helios, which gives both regens and shields, and then this looks to be some type of, I don't know, it's got some leaves or something, I can't really tell, but most likely it's some type of haste buff, or it could be some type of instant heal like an Indom. Mind you, the ninja's quite far away, so it'd have to have a pretty big range. I would say at least 15-20 ohms for that. So, but Astro has a lot of aesthetics. Now here comes the Samurai. So first off, combo starter number 1. Now that I'm gonna call that the Xeno Lightning Sword. because it gave you at least, it gave you a minimum of 45 Kenki. Probably gonna be 50 if I had to guess. But it gives you 50 Kenki, whether it's an off GCD, which it probably most likely is. That would make the most sense, which is what it would do. And then it does the previous slashing combo, and then it does Higambana with Kaiten, Mikyo Shisui, speed combo, Shinten, damage combo, slashing combo, which I'm not really slashing, and then that there, that, as we saw, we'll bring it back a little bit, at 90 goes down to 40. So that's probably a single target Gurren of some kind. That's basically the first thing I thought right off the bat. And then a Kaiten, and then Midare, and then another Midare. So there's some type of condition, whether that's a different type of Kaiten that just has a very similar ability. That blue one beforehand, I believe, was True North. Let me see if I can pick it out here. It's just before Meikyo. Yeah. So does that. That's Kaiten. Higambana. That's Meikyo. That right there is True North. People were speculating that that's the buff for the condition for the next EI Jutsu to be able to be used twice. So then Super Slash, Kaiten, EI Jutsu. So somehow there's some type of condition where you can use back-to-back or mimic your last move that consumes sens of some kind. So then he does meditate, gets at least one tick. You saw right there, just briefly. You can also hear the sound as well if you have the video up. Video open right there. Gains a buff. That buff then probably activates this off GCD, which requires no Kenki and probably is just some probably ridiculously high potency ability. Now here comes the second tank, Warrior. So we notice right off the bat he used Infuriate, and he has no gauge. Or no DPS stance, rather. He has 50 gauge, and then he uses Inner Beast. Or what looks to be Inner Beast. There was no healing particle effect on him, which either means that Inner Beast has no healing, or that's not Inner Beast at all, even though it looks to be the same animation. So unless it's been changed to something different, then I'm not too sure. But that looks very Inner Beast-like, and I didn't see any of the healing on it. So, and then now he gets Defiance. So, Heavy Swing, Maim, Storm's Bath, still the same amount of gauge generated. And then he gets, so that looks like some type of barrier or shield for him. Now the interesting part comes next. So, he's got these little fiery fly things around him. You just saw he got a little, you hear the sound and see the sound for him healing, I believe, here. So let's see, we got it. He does that. So Pat still heals, does that. So whether these fireflies give you some type of healing or bloodbath ability, I'm not too sure. But that's what it seems to be speculation about. All I know is that afterwards, you helicopter, basically. So it seems like Overpower has a two-part skill. And then he does a Decimate in Defiance, because there's no more DPS stance. Inner Release still basically does the same thing. Able to hack away at the dummy here, and then he does another Infuriate, and then does a crazy Super Cyclone. I don't know if that's a different animation or a completely different cyclone altogether, whether it's Steel Cyclone or not. Overall, not really too much to take from Warrior, apart from they have a couple different nuances and they have that shield thing. So 50 and 50, that's actually an AoE arrow. Give 7. And an AoE thunder. Now that, I'm not sure what that ability was, but then he was able to shoot the ranged attack, which basically took 10 off each gauge. So this could be a range bender when you're just kind of dancing around the boss or doing whatever you're doing, where you can't basically get to the boss for a melee combo, or you might cap before you have to hit your melee combo because you have to delay it. Normal abilities that we already know there. Then the dash, and then right here is the move to use instead of displacement. So if you can't basically go backwards because of the arena or some type of terrain interruption or something of that nature, you can just use that one instead. And I believe it shares the same recast timer from what we were told. And just magnification into the melee combo. Do the little backflip. And he was able to backflip there because of the magnification, because it resets the dashes. From what I know about Red Mage, I only played it a little bit, so if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments below. So it then does Very Holy, and then does this cool finisher move, which gave 7 of each gauge. So that looks to be like it could be AoE. It's big enough to be AoE. So we will have to see on that. But it does look pretty cool. Now, whether it does like a lighter animation if you do the vice versa, where you use Ver Flare instead of Ver Holy, but we'll have to see. So, and now we're going to Monk. One of the more simplistic jobs in the game. So he uses Riddle of Fire, Fire Tackle, Demolish, Rock Breaker, Handstand Kick, as I'm going to call it. So this looks like to be the second part that will replace True Strike or Twin Snakes in an AoE rotation. As you can see, it looks like he's spinning around and kicking a lot of units within the near area. And then Rock Breaker, which resets Grease Lightning, uses Perfect Balance, Snap Punch, Tornado Kick, into Demolish again, Snap Punch, and then uses Fists of Wind, which gives him an empty Grease Lightning stack. So now you have the ability to go up to Grease Lightning 4. He then proceeds to Meditate, which holds his Grease Lightning, and then generates his Grease Lightning all the way up to 4. Now how long this duration is, we don't know. But this is obviously super useful for downtime, because you can get back up to Grease Lightning 4 if you time it properly. Probably 4 server ticks will get you there, which is around 12 seconds. So whether the Meditate goes up that long, I don't know. But if it does, that would be insane, to put it mildly. So we'll just bring it back a little bit here. So Tornado Kick, Demolish, Snap Punch, Fist of Wind into Super Meditate, and then Boot Shine, Twin Snakes, Demolish, Dragon Kick, which is a good thing to note to still exist, because it probably does something different now, whether it's a damage up buff for the monk itself, because it's not going to do blunt down anymore on the boss, as those have been removed. Then uses Riddle of Fire. Then does whatever this ability is, which gave him Greased Lightning, by the way. We'll just take it back a few seconds. Twin Snakes. Demolish. Dragon Kick. Riddle of Fire. And then this ability gave him Greased Lightning again. So whether this is a 2-part combo with Dragon Kick, I'm not too sure. It could be an off GCD that gives him Greased Lightning. I don't know. But maybe Dragon Kick has been evolved into a two-part combo that can be cut short and use this in order to refresh your grease lighting, which is good if you know you only have a couple GCDs before the boss leaves. But we'll have to see how that one actually plays out. And then he expends all of his chakras to Hadoken the poor little dummy. Or Kamehameha Wave, depending on what anime/video game you play. But that's pretty cool because that's now an online AoE that they can use for instead of Forbidden Chakra. Paladin, Gap Closer. We know that that was leaked out before from the previous video. It's also apparently on 2 charges. So that's something also to take note of as well. So then Shield Oath does Total Eclipse, and then does that, which is basically, I guess, equivalent to Warrior's helicopter axe, and probably does AoE damage. But you also, if you hear the actual, or see on the Paladin, right there, you hear the heal animation. So whether that's HP back or if it's mana back, we don't know, but it's some type of regeneration back for the Paladin. So if it's mana regen, that could be super useful. Super useful. More clemencies, more holy spirits, more AoE holy circles, I believe it's called, which we'll see later on in the trailer. And it's just great overall for Paladin, as they seem to be relying heavily on mana. So then we got Fast Blade. Sheltron still uses 50. That's Riot Blade that gave them a resource. Presumably it's mana. And some type of buff. Then Royal Authority. Then a 4th Bard combo. So whether this is a dot of some kind, or if it does anything else, I'm not sure. But I also do know that it did give the same sound of some type of regeneration of some type of resource, whether it is mana or HP, back on this part of the combo. So which is also something to add. But whether they incorporated the Go-Ring Blade into it, I'm not too sure on that. But it seems to be some type of four-part combo that is basically unlocked by doing the Royal Authority combo. So that's Requiescat. Instant cast Holy Spirit. Instant cast Holy Spirit. Instant cast Clemency. Instant cast whatever the hell this thing is, but it looks to be basically AoE Holy Spirit. So I think the name was Holy Circle. So that's cool. And then what looks to be Garanalt from League of Legends, but is more familiar with Final Fantasy Tactics. But that is based on the tooltip that was apparently leaked. It does around like 800 potency, and it's a massive AoE ability that just does a boatload of damage. So, yeah, looks really cool. And being a avid Paladin player, last few raid tiers, looks super cool. Also, another thing to note, I forgot to actually show this as well. Let's just go back here. So we go here. Royal Authority gives you 5 Oath Gauge as well. So whether there are other abilities that also give you 5 Oath Gauge, we're not too sure. If that's the case, and there's no other combo that gives you 5 gauge, that would mean that Oath Gauge is basically once every 30 GCDs you get a Sheltron, which is pretty bad, because every combo gives you 5, which is 3 GCDs, and you need 50 to get a Sheltron. So if that's the case, that means Sheltron's going to be not as good of a cooldown, because you're obviously generating a lot faster. But maybe there's something in their kit which we don't know about for Oathwise. Now on to Ninja. So we note that there's 50 Ninki, Huton, and TCJ is now free. So we started with 50, didn't use any Ninki, didn't use any at all. So still Fuma, still Raiton, still Suiton, and gets the Suiton buff. Then does an ability that basically gives him 40 Ninki. Then uses Kasat's Super Katon. Kasat's again into like Ice Shurikens, and I don't know if he was able to teleport to the dummy at the same time or what that was. But that was interesting. We're also going to take this back here. So he's at 90. He goes in. Uses Ice Shurikens. Death Blossom gives him 8. Now you'll see when he has his ultimate ability out that you'll notice that the Ninki generation is on GCDs, and it is 8 per GCD, whereas before it was, I believe it was 6, and it was on auto attacks, which is almost effectively a GCD, but yeah, now it's 8. So he then used, I guess that can be a second part of Death Blossom, so another 2-part AoE, or it's an off GCD that's just AoE. And then this is the super ability that basically creates a shadow copy that mimics your GCDs. And it costs 80 Ninki. And from this video, we can only see it do GCDs. So we're not sure if it mimics Dream Within a Dream and all that stuff as well. But you see at the end he does Bava, and the ninja doesn't follow him. The shadow doesn't follow him, rather. So, ninja looking like they're going to be using a lot more of their kind of ninjutsu arts in order to basically deal the damage. Now that they and they also said this in the live letter, they don't have Shade Walker and don't have Smoke Screen anymore because there is no need for it. So now we have White Mage. First off the bat, we can notice, we'll see it briefly at the start. So there's a little white ball that will appear here that goes along and ticks along a timer all the way up to the top branch, and I assume gives you one of these blue lilies here. The White Mage just consumed a lily on that first ability, so I guess it's some type of enhancing of the ability. So basically having any amount of lilies, as long as you have one, will enhance your next ability in some way, shape, or form. Also, this little flower here, this little red flower, basically grows over time until it becomes a big petal, which you'll see at the end of the White Mage clip. That basically allows you to do a big damage ability at the end. So basically you get rewarded for your pure healing. So we'll just bring it back a little bit here to the beginning so we can take a look at it better. So that's basically their new like stone. That was like a little regen. That's like their new arrow dot, which they're removing that. They changed the animations a bit, the stone and arrow type stuff for water and I guess wind. Probably in place of potential 6.0 Geomancer. Spoilers. No, but in all seriousness, that's probably what they're actually doing it for. Then the White Mage gives this person regen. That's a Medica 2 or was that an instant cast? Let me go back here. So that's like a regen of some kind with lilies or a shield. And that was an instant cast that also used a lily there. Not sure if that was plenary. No, that's plenary right there. That's plenary. So it's some type of indom or some type of instant heal. And then plenary is able to be used on top of that. And we notice the flower here is getting a bit more noticeable. Then I believe this is Medica 2. And then we go Super Saiyan mode with wings. Medica 2 again. And then whatever that ability was. Or if that was Cure 3 into plenary again. And then now you notice the flower is fully fleshed out. And then some type of regen again. And the White Mage uses a big, massive bit of white white magic there, presumably for some massive nuke, so you get rewarded for your healing, which looked to be an instant cast as well. And then you notice we don't get to see it because it ends just before it, but presumably they gain a lily every time that meter goes hits the top. So the timing looked to be around like 30 seconds or so. Now on to Scholar. So first off, 3 Aetherflow stacks still there. Fairy Gauge and Chain Stratagem still exists. Whether it's in its current form, we're not too sure. So this is Broil 3. I don't know what, I'm calling that the squareometer, but it's some type of, I couldn't even know what it is, but it's something on the enemy, so it's got to be some type of debuff, whether it's Chain Stratagem for direct hit. That would be my best guess, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's a haste trick attack. I don't know. Then we got Aetherflow. And then we got Opening the Gates, or I don't know what type of scripture that is. So that ability there, that was a crit shield. So that ability, just bring it back a few seconds here. That ability creates a crit shield on the tank there. Now if that can be spread load, and that's a cooldown on anything shorter than 2 minutes, that's insane. Because that means you can have spread low crit shields on everyone every 2 minutes. So that's better be like a 3-minute cooldown or something, because that even at 3 minutes is still insane. It's still insane. So let's continue on here. They just used an ability that used 20 gauge, which sent out all the butterflies, which looks to heal people or protect them of some kind. And then we went from 30 gauge to 80, and now we have Super Fairy. I believe the name's called Seraph. So it puts some type of diamond shield, whether it's like an enhanced barrier of some kind or enhanced shield. Then she commands the fairy, and then it looks like it healed them as well. And then that looks like protect or some type of other shield as well, which looked like it used 10 of its gauge, I want to say. Wait, used 10 of its gauge. So it had, how much did it start with? So it started with 80. That shield there, that didn't do anything. So Scholar used an ability to give it an extra 10 gauge. And it just used another ability to maybe potentially use that fairy's ability or enhance a fairy's ability as well. So it does use its own individual gauge. And then it was 70 seconds or 70 gauge left when it went back. So it's seemingly whatever gauge you have to end with Seraph is what you keep with Eos or Selene, which are apparently cosmetic according to the devs as well. Now we're on to Summoner. We'll also notice right off the bat 2 Aetherflow stacks. Only 2. So this is where they differentiate from Scholar. Only 2 Aetherflow stacks. Which is previously before they had 3. So now it seems that the Summoner is commanding the pet to do all of these actions. And then summons Bahamut, which we know already exists. Uses Akmorn, a damaging ability, which then Bahamut follows up after the point of no return. We'll just watch it back again. Right there, Bahamut uses Wormwave at the same time, so it seems like Bahamut's mechanics are still the same as what they were before. Basically, action into Wormwave, action into Wormwave, and then commands for another Akmorn. Now we also notice that the gauge turns to the Phoenix. So you're able to summon the Phoenix, but you'll see that in a second. Garuda gets immediately swapped out on an instant cast for Ifrit, who does damage immediately when he's spawned, whether that's an auto attack or if it's an actual ability on summon. It's something interesting as well. So Ifrit's using this ability. Now that looks like some type of new ability of some kind. I'm not sure. I don't recognize that animation, but if somebody could let me know if it is a new ability, please mention it in the comments down below. It could be some type of new dot. Actually, let's go back a bit here because they use the Aether Flow. The Aether Flow stacks. So here we go here. So if it comes out. So I'm not sure what that ability is there, but uses Aether Flow there. I'm not well versed in Summoner. And then that sounded like Bane, but I could be wrong, or Pain Flare. And he used both of the abilities. And then he used that ability, which gave him 2 Aether Flows back. Yeah, that ability gave him 2 Aether Flows. So that's definitely new. Unless that's the new, what his new Aether Flow is. It's some type of damage that gives you Aether Flow stacks. Also, I'm pretty sure they use Energy Drain. Unless this is Energy Drain. I don't know, I'm all confused now. I don't really know Summoner too much. But then summons Phoenix in place of the existing Eggy. And then it uses various different size fire abilities. Basically Bahamut with different animations. Now on to Machinist. So right away, Machinist started with, see if I can bring it back just before he uses the biogun. So you can see right there that it goes from 70 to 80. This is a heat gauge. This is what's known as a battery gauge. We know, so biogun right there. Dot tick on it. Looks to be AoE as well. And the flamethrower. That chain drill is another ability that gains in 20 battery. Also, the GCD gave him 5 heat. Just another note. Another cool, one of the cool animations. Also, these are all not above 50 heat. These are all not above 50 heat. We'll just run it back. Before you got all these cool animations above 50 heat. They're all giving 5. Then goes up to 65 heat. Then, since the gauge is at 100, calls in iRobot. So that was just Wildfire, that little bomb that was put on the boss. You'll notice that the timer started at 8 seconds. We'll just run it back just briefly. So 50 heat increase, summons the robot. So just as the wildfire starts, 50 heat gauge consumed, 8-second countdown. So cooldown, and then cooldown almost immediately after, which doesn't affect the heat gauge at all. Now whether this robot works similar to Bahamut, whereas every time you use an ability or off GCD, it does some type of auto attack. And then wildfire explodes. And then whatever that is, like harpoon gun AoE from the looks of it. And then the super drill explosive, which also gains 10 battery during the robot as well. So you notice when the robot dissipates here after using its super cool finishing move, he still has 10 gauge. So you can, whether you can generate enough battery to where you can summon the robot again, or store it up to where you can summon the robot twice in quick succession, that'll be determined by the rest of the kit. But that was looks like a completely different job altogether. And it looks like a lot of fun. It actually looks like a machinist. It's using a lot of different tools and weapons in its arsenal to show what it's all about. Dancer. So right away, Dancer, basically we know that this is basically your dance partner. So anytime you do any form of the what are called steps, if you do them in a correct sequence, similar to how ninja mudras work, you give a buff to the party member. Depending on how many steps you do, depends on how many buffs they get. So if you do the 4-step combo, or I believe it's 4 steps and 2 steps, depends on what buffs they are and how long they are. I believe they're set lengths. So we'll see it here. They're just doing it slow so you can see all the animations. That's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and then completion. So then that's the dash ability they showed off in the live letter, and then the 2-step dance. And then we also noticed that the dance originally started with 50, and then it was something, whether it's like completing a combo or an off GCD or something, gives the dancer, by being a partner, this fan gauge here. It gives her resources in that way. So she's going to complete the step here, and now you see that there's a timer. So this, and it's being like energy's being siphoned to the samurai here, and you see 60, which I guess is the window for the duration of the longest buff. So now the dancer then throws an ability. That 10 gauge could have came from that GCD, but I'm pretty sure it's still coming from the samurai. That ability there just gave her one of these feathers, which goes up to a max of 4 by the looks of it. She then uses this crazy cool looking slashing ability, which consumed 50 of the gauge, so whether it's like a type of Guren for samurai or some type of single target nuke, that's probably what it's more likely to be. And then some type of other buff, and then she just used one of the fan feathers to do another ability, then dashes back forward, then that ability gains another one back. We just heard the animation of the pling sound. We'll just take it back a little bit here. So pay attention to the dancer when she goes in. So we have 20 right there. That bit of energy right there that just went from there to there gave her the 10 gauge. And she does 2 abilities to give her fans or fan feathers, then uses 1. So it's a lot better explained in the post-its on Reddit for all the different abilities. You get to see what also the dancer has, and then she also has one where whichever partner she's linked to, I'm not sure if it's a partner or if she can pick, but it's basically the dancer and 1 get basically their own battle litany for crit and direct hit. And last but not least, the Dank Knight. So notice right off the bat, completely different gauge. Above here, still the same gauge before, 50 blood. The little spikes going around being grit. So what this gauge represents, we'll find out. So he uses some type of ability here, whether that's a new shield of some kind, I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that animation. So then he plunges in. So this is a note there. That is apparently called Dark Missionary, which is basically some type of AoE ability, which also gives him 20 gauge. So we'll just replay that one back. So he plunges in, and then bam, right there, 20 gauge. So how short of cooldown that is, I don't know, but that looks pretty good. And then he does this weird line, edge of darkness, edge of something rather, I don't even know, which basically makes this timer here and all glowy go 30 seconds. And he does blood weapon. That's combo part number 1. Siphon strike, soul eater, which if we go back to all of those, so he gets his 30 seconds. Turns on blood weapon. Each GCD of blood weapon is giving 10. So he's gonna get 10 right here. So 10 on each part of the combo on a blood weapon. Then he uses some other different type of slash where he cuts across the dummy, which basically makes his counter go from 20, 19, gains 30 again. And then 50 blood gauge and creates a separate timer of 25 seconds by the looks of it, where he basically creates the Dark Knight dude from the storyline. I'm not going to spoil his name for you, but basically he helps you out. So it uses Abyssal Drain and Plunge. Now, it's also to note that it may do the set number of abilities before it starts mimicking you. We're still unsure on that, but what we are almost sure of is that it does have the ability to tank for you, as well as hold aggro. So maybe when it comes into the arena, it makes sure that it gets aggro, and it will always do, can't remember what that, I think it's called Abyssal Drain, and then Plunge, to make sure it gets the aggro on top. So then both of them, both you and the clone, do Quietus, which consumes 50 of your gauge. And then we used some ability, not sure what it was, but then he used the line nuke. We do Blood Spiller, which was free, because normally Blood Spiller would cost 50 gauge, and he does the Cut Across ability that we saw. So we'll just pull that back a little bit, because that was a little bit much to take in there. So we do that little hold the globe thing. He does his line nuke. Then we do right there Blood Spiller. Still didn't use our gauge. And then we Blood Spiller again with our buddy and still don't use gauge. And then we both use Carve and Spin, which we still, from the sounds of it, gain mana, whereas I don't think he gives us mana, but that would be kind of cool if it did. And then he goes away, and then we go back to a normal gauge. Now, it's also worth noting that we were able to pull him out when we had 48, 49 seconds engaged. So whether you can only bring him out when your gauge is above 30, that would be the only thing that would make sense to me. So you have to build him up before you can get your Dark Knight friend to come out and help you. So that's all of the job actions. Let's just go over a brief overview of all the different roles really quickly. So from what I can tell, all the tanks are getting their own unique type of assistance, being an off tank, as well as they're all getting their new. We didn't really see it for Warrior, but for Gunbreaker, we had some cool flashy ability at the end, which was like a line explosion. We had Dark Knight's Dark Friend. We had our Paladin use the giant sword, and it all seems like they're getting a bunch of different abilities to enhance their kit in various different ways. So they all seem pretty cool to play. In terms of the melees, Monk seems to be pretty much fairly similar. Dragoon seems to be fairly similar with the changes in their combo system, whether it's a longer combo, we're still not sure. But they get cool flashy dives and some basically updates to that where the animation's a lot quicker. We have Samurai, who's just, from the looks of it, doing a lot more damage and has some pretty cool abilities that probably do tons of damage as well. And then with Ninja, it seems to be they're going to be more of the ninjutsu art style of job, where they're using more abilities than necessarily weapon skills. In terms of ranged, Bard seems to act pretty much the same, except with the new gauge gaining abilities to use the ion beam. Machinist is basically a completely new job, relying on Wildfire to have heat, the amount of heat required to activate it, which is generated through weapon skills. The battery gauge is their utility belt, as it were, where they can gain access to the new robot friend, which also they could also have a turret as well. We didn't see the turret, but it seems like the robot seems to be their ultimate ability. And then finally, Dancer seems to be a lot of buffs, which look slow in the trailer, but they're actually in gameplay more like Mudras, so they're a lot quicker. And it seems to be you're just going to basically, who are you going to give all those buffs to, and you can change who you are partnered with, your dance partner, during the fight. I'll just run the trailer while we'll just put it in the last. We'll just run the dancer one back. While you're fighting, you can actually change it. And then on to the casters. So we have Black Mage, who looks pretty much similar to what it does, except for more of the different nuances with how it works with the Blizzard skills being free, how you're able to maintain your Enochian and your Astral Fire or Umbral Ice stacks with the ability to basically pick and choose whether you want to use the AoE or single target version of Polyglot. Summoner, completely different, using player controlled actions instead of pet actions in order to make them do different abilities, so more of the summoner feel, and basically broadening that summoner archetype with the ability to summon Phoenix and any other potential summons that they may also be getting as well. Red Mage seems pretty similar, but it looks like they're having a bit more adaptation to their AoE and a bit more flexibility in terms of where they position themselves and how they hit on the run. And lastly, the healers. White Mage seems to be going for more of that pure healer type of playing style. Scholar seems to be more focused around their fairy actions, which seem to be a lot more responsive, and their utility around that. And then Astro is a complete rework where it's more focused on single cards, you know, in terms of basically giving them, giving individual buffs to people. So basically, you're gonna have to hope the Astros and the dancers give you all the buffs if you're the Black Mage or Samurai or any DPS for that matter. But that's gonna do it for today, guys. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'm going to be trying to release more content on this channel. I'll also be doing some streaming as well. You can find the links on my channel to both my Twitter and Twitch. So if you leave a like and comment down below, it would be much appreciated. And subscribe if you're enjoying the content. There's a lot more to come, especially on the 29th with the embargo. We'll definitely be looking forward to that for all the different content there coming out, to where we can actually read tooltips and we can see all the different nuances for each individual job and see how they're going to play out. So that's going to do it for now. It's a good night from me, and I'll see you guys next time.